Civil War 2024. Stars Kirsten Dunst, Wagner, Cailee, Spaeny, and a host of other people. Like, what's his name? Ron Swanson played the president, didn't he? What's his name again? Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman.
Very good actor. So we went to see this on the big screen, the IMAX screen, actually, the very big screen. A very divisive film, especially, I think, for Americans with everything that's going on over there, with the country being so divided politically. This probably ruffled a few feathers, rattled a few cages, because it's set in the not too distant future where, as the result of some sort of despotic dictator style president who changes the constitution and the government for the worse, and then you get factions moving against the government, and it's told through the eyes of photojournalists. Kirsten Dunst is kind of like a Lee Miller character. She's this famed war photographer, and Cailee Spaeny is like the young up and coming, wants to be just like her hero, who's one of them is Kirsten Dunst's character. So, there's that element to it as well. And you've got the other guys in there, the journalists in there with them. And the whole story's told through their eyes. They're trying to get to Washington, is it? Trying to get to the Capitol from wherever they are. So it's about their journey, who they meet along the way. Gets really hairy. Done very realistically, as I said, when those bullets are banging and whizzing and explosions going off. When you go to see this film, you know about it. There's nothing. It was done in a very, very realistic sense.
It was. I mean, I'll just say up front, I loved this film. I thought it was fantastic for many reasons, but it has been incredibly divisive. I think on many fronts. I think one of the things was it was advertised very much as like an action film throughout, but of course the first kind of a third to 2/3 of the film are quite slow because we're building a story. We're talking about this first journey of the photojournalist and stuff like that. Although things do happen, but it's not like But the third act is crazy, and there's an interesting thing about the politics of this film, and as you mentioned, and then this is where it gets interesting, really, because in one way it's trying not to be reality and give its own political opinion in one sense. The idea of it's Texas and California teaming up to go against the government. Well, in real life, that's like, well, you got two opposites, right and left, right? So it doesn't really make much sense. But in this film world, it does. And so there's not something to grasp it to a reality in that sense. But it's very clear what they're trying to say about, this is a despot government. This is a fascist government that's trying to take over, and the people are revolting in a way. But neither does it clear either side of any of the charges that it has. There is brutality and disgusting behaviour on both sides of this trench warfare, essentially, between them all. And I guess it's less about the kind of two sides on a big scale, although you see that at the end, but it's these small pockets as you go throughout this journey where you go, holy shit, and it's really at times disturbing, and for that I think it works incredibly well. Kirsten Dunst, fantastic, just an amazing performance, and I think she always is really great, and you could see kind of the experience on her face of, I've seen some shit, She does that really well. And a good cast throughout, and of course our favourite man, Jesse Plemons, who was only in this 10 minutes, if you're lucky, his scene. But it's 10 minutes you won't forget.
Probably the most standout 10 minutes in the film, I'd say, that scene.
Yeah.
Because basically that's the one film that overtly alludes to the Second World War in terms of the Holocaust, because there's a pit full of bodies, and he is basically some real, fucking Nazi bastard that's very racist, kills a couple of them right on the spot because of their backgrounds. You know, the guy says, where you're from? Hong Kong? China. You're from China. Bang, shoots him. Yeah. Dead. That's it.
I'm American. What kind of American?
Yeah, exactly. What kind of American are you?
And that sums up the film, doesn't it?
Yeah, but, you know, it did a very good job of muddying the waters of who's who and who's on whose side, because the characters themselves sometimes find it difficult to ascertain whether they're government forces or the revolutionary forces. They're never quite sure, you know. So it does push this idea that of in a civil war, things are very, very... there's no worse kind of war than a civil war, you know, because it's... brother killing brother, sister killing sister, etc. And, you know, a lot of war crimes are going to be going on in your local neighborhood. You know, when they get to that one place and they've hung people in the barn and all sorts. And it just makes your skin go cold watching some of it, because although it is set in a fantasy world, it's very akin to our own. Like, we've just been talking about the Ministry of Ungenly Warfare, which is bombastic, larger than life, definitely doesn't take place in a realistic world, and the action is fun. It is fun action, you know, it's kind of like that kind of action, whereas this, it's the opposite. The action is horrific. It really, like I say, your ears are ringing, it's deafening. It tries to show, I think, the real side of war. And now and again, because they're photojournalists, you get those scenes where they're taking those stills of people bleeding out, and, you know, the kind of thing you've seen over the years from Steve McCurry and people like that have taken these, you know, war photographers and Don McCullen, all his kind of stuff. As I say, Lee Miller, obviously a big influence on it. But it was interesting, I thought, to tell that story through those eyes, rather than being people in the forces with guns and fighting each other. They're almost like independent. But as with a lot of the things that have happened in America in recent years, especially during the Trump administration, there's this idea of the press is the enemy of the people. So they had to, you know, when they end up with Jesse Plemons and stuff like that, never mind the fact that some of them are from different ethnic backgrounds, the fact that just that their press is a danger to them, because some people consider the free press to be, you know, enemies of the state, especially when you're trying to sell a certain agenda. You can't have people running around actually, you know, looking at it from a different point of view, or reporting things from a different point of view. So it had a lot to say like that. Like you said, I think it tried to not be too far on one side or the other, but it still had a sort of, you know, a sense of, you know.
Well, I think it actually works better, I think, because it doesn't say, oh, I'm picking a side here in real life. And it goes, we can be generic with this, but it all applies. And you actually get kind of more callbacks, as you see, to like Nazi Germany, to like South American states, the Soviet Union. You get more calls to these kind of regimes, North Korea, things like that, with little moments going on than anything else. And it's like, to me, saying this has happened elsewhere, it can very well happen here, you know, and it's not a stone, you know, it's not too far a stretch of the imagination for things that are going on there. And it does a tremendous job of telling that story. And it is right. It's much better to do it through those eyes of the photojournalist than, we're following Commando Group A, you know, because that would be a bit naff, really. Yeah.
It also shows that the journalists themselves, you know, are morally ambiguous in some senses. You know, that whole idea of what is exploitation and what is just good old-fashioned good reporting, and, you know, what is staged, what was real, that kind of thing that, you know, that real war journalists have faced over the years. I wanted to mention Stephen McKinley Henderson, who plays Sammy, which we also have seen in the Dune films. Fantastic actor. I don't really know him from much other stuff, but his character, I thought in this was fantastic.
Absolutely.
You know, I won't spoil it by saying what happens, but especially in that conclusion to that Jesse Plemons scene, I just was like amazed by that. I was like, oh my God. So, he was great in it. Really enjoyed that side of it. Good performances.
It is, and then obviously you get to the final act, and the action is incredible. It's street fighting, street to street, on the ground
in Washington DC, right outside the White House.
Choppers and missiles going everywhere, incredible. There's some really great stuff in the White House at the end, which I won't spoil. But lots of questions asked there, about what's a war crime, what's the right thing to do, what's morality, what's real, etc. With the arsenal, I think, being the action's great as well. Most finish it all off.
Most of the complaints I saw about it were about that last 5-10 minutes in the White House. Some people had issue with, what becomes of Kirsten Dunst and Cailee Spaeny's characters there, if you remember that. Some people questioned, that whole idea of the president and his last words and all this stuff, and seemed to have issue with it. But maybe that was just having issue with it as a movie rather than as a political statement on either way. But I think that's what people need to remember, as real as it may be, or as much as it pertains to a lot of stuff that has been going on in the political sphere in America in the last few years. It is just a movie.
Yes.
It can be taken seriously, or it could just be treated as on the same level as the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, in that it's just pure fantasy. It's just a movie. You're just supposed to go and come out after a couple of hours, and you can have a conversation, and just like you can with any other movie. So it's kind of came and went now, hasn't it? Because it was a while back that we actually saw it.
Yeah.
And it's not one of those movies that's, like a lot of things nowadays, everything's so disposable, but it hasn't really had, people aren't really talking about it a hell of a lot. Again,
no.
Even though the political situation over there is, they're in a lot of trouble over there in terms of what's going to happen in November, because, we know why. So, it's not like these kind of things have gone away yet.
No, not at all, and that's why I thought it pertained so well as well. But I'd say it has kind of just disappeared from the discourse again. A lot of people just didn't watch it or weren't intrigued by it, which is a bit of a shame, I felt. But it's one of them things. But it did well. I mean, it 50 million budget to 120 million at the box office, pretty good going.
Yeah, not bad
especially
at all.
For an independent film. It's A24's most expensive film. It's done quite well. They've knocked it out of the park again, as A24 seem to do. So it's interesting, but I fully enjoyed it. I've heard and read a lot of the opposite, and there's some interesting reasons. But I came out and thought that was really great.
Me too. I thought it was a really good film. Very well put together. Very interesting, very different, something original, something that kind of has something to say about the times we're living in, as well as just being a damn good watch as well. Do you remember that scene at the start where, one of the protesters or revolutionaries, whatever you want to call them, has the huge Star Spangled Banner and just has a backpack on, and they run past Kirsten Dunst, and she knows what it is. She knows that they're basically a suicide bomber. And that happens within the first 5 minutes in the film, and I thought, oh my God, this is what we're going to be watching here.
That's it. It was very
heavy.
It was, to me, it was throwing back 7/7 bombings, Madrid bombings, things like that, and IRA bombings. It was all floods into your head, and that's what's so powerful at things like that. I mean, it kind of does make you think, and it's an incredible scene, and it's a great way to start things off and kind of go, this is what we're dealing with. And that was a kind of sensory kind of Jesus, very loud, very explosive, but really great stuff. And to me, I recommend people watch it.
Oh, definitely, especially, film fans. It's great. You've got to watch it. You've got to see. You've got to have an opinion and see what you think of it. But, yeah, I mean, Alex Garland said, he's going to quit making movies or something after that. I'm not sure why, but I hope he doesn't, because he's got things to say. Some of his films, Ex Machina and stuff like that, I think have been really good. Yeah,
I don't buy that comment at all. I think it was something that was said and it was taken out of context, etc. I think he's got another project coming up, so I think it's a bit of just something that was said rather than reality.
A wild goose chase, hopefully. Well, there we go. Civil War, again, thumbs up. Definitely see it. I mean, it's a tough watch, but I think a necessary one, just in terms of cinema.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much for watching this video. We really appreciate it. The best way to support our channel is by giving us a like and subscribing. Other ways to support us include buymeacoffee.com or become a patron over on patreon.com. This video is also sponsored by funkytshirts.co.uk, so check out their website for a whole range of cool and funky t-shirt designs. All the links are in the description.